Hello everybody, and welcome back to the 6th video in our series of watercolor painting. Now for this video, we're going to go ahead and paint this nice picture of this beautiful tropical fish with these nice vibrant colors. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, as you've seen, we are going to be painting today this pretty little fish. Now, what's really awesome about this is you can customize your fish to look like however you want. In real life, fish come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, all kinds of colors. And so as you paint your fish, even if it doesn't look exactly like mine, that's totally fine. You can choose different colors, you can choose different shapes. It is completely up to you. Today I will show you how to paint this specific fish, but really you can go ahead and paint any kind of fish you would like and it will look great. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First, what we're going to do is paint the main body of our fish. And what we're going to do for this is we're going to go ahead and start off with the thin brush because we're going to paint an outline for the body of the fish. So we're going to go ahead and start with a thin paintbrush. We're going to dip it in the water and we're going to go ahead and start getting some of that yellow coloring out from the palette. Go ahead, dip it in the water, start mixing it in a couple times through until you have a nice yellow coloring in the water. And once you have some nice yellow coloring, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start drawing the outline of the fish. So I'm going to go ahead and start right here. For me, this is where the nose is going to be. I'm going to go ahead, the line doesn't have to be too thick. And I'm just going to go ahead and start off just like that. That's basically the top part of the fish. And I'm going to go ahead, go straight down. And I'm going to go ahead and start painting the bottom half. I'm going to go ahead and dip it back in. And go ahead and paint the bottom half of the fish. So just like that. Your fish does not have to look like that. It does not have to be perfectly smooth and curved lines. It can be however you would like it to be. And if it's not, well, that's totally fine. We'll still make it look just great. So now what we get to do is we're going to go ahead and color in the main body of our fish. So all I'm going to do is just going to keep with the same type of paintbrush and go ahead and color in all of the body. As I have recommended before, I recommend that as you're coloring a solid body of an object, whatever it may be, that you keep the strokes consistent. So as you've seen, as I painted in this fish, I kept my strokes going right to left throughout the entire body. Now I could have mixed them up. I could have gone, part way, right and left. I could have gone up and down for the rest of it. And although you can totally do that, I do recommend that you keep them consistent. So if you wanted to color in your fish from right to left like this, that you continue that throughout the entire body of the fish, the coloring. And if you decided to color in like this, that you go ahead and color in the entire fish going up and down like so. It'll make the coloring and the strokes look much neater and much more uniform. However, if that is not the case, if that's not what you did, that's totally fine. It's not the end of the world. Alright, so now we have the body of our fish. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make a darker outline along the edge to to really make sure that this fish pops out and looks lively. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the color yellow away from this brush. I'm gonna clean it off with this towel. And then I'm gonna go ahead, dip it into water just like the yellow. I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna go with the color orange. Again, you can choose any kind of color you would like. You can go ahead and go with red. You can do pink, whatever you would like. For me, I'm going to choose orange today. So let's go ahead, get some of that orange coloring on our brush, just like that. We're gonna start painting an outline of our fish. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna go right on top of our yellow boundary and start painting our fish, or at least the outline of our fish, just like that. You don't have to press down super hard on a paper, just press down lightly and go ahead, get an outline started just like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead, and as we see in the picture below, I'm going to go ahead and take this outline and make a triangle shape in the back to get started on that tail, on the tail of our fish. So just like that. Now that I have the top, I'm going to go ahead and basically do the same thing with the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead. You don't have to start near the exact same place. Any place is fine. Just gently press down and get that nice coloring on the outline of the fish. And as you get to the tail right here, as you can see, I'm going right back up and I'm meeting with the top part of the outline that I drew just a minute earlier. So now that I have the beginning of these two outlines, I'm going to go ahead and color in. There's some white area right here. I'm going to go ahead and color that in with the orange paint. Just like that. There we go. And now we basically have the beginning of our outline. So what I like to do now is I'd like to have some sort of outline throughout the entire body of our fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe off my brush just a little bit. I'm going to barely dip it into the water and then use the paint that we used earlier to go ahead and continue our outline of our fish all throughout the rest up to the face and nose, just like that. And what this does is, instead of making a super bold color, it's going to fade away just a little bit and make this really nice effect. You may need to go ahead and just keep dipping it into the water, and that's totally fine. All you need to do is finish it right at the edge, just like that, so it's a nice lighter orange. And just like that, we have the outline of our fish. Alright, so now we have this outline. We are going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start doing the fins of the fish. So first, as you see, at least what I did is I did a nice vibrant blue for the fins, or at least the back fins and the tail. And I went ahead and made the front fins just this orange color, the same orange color that I did with the outline. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to continue using our orange, and I'm going to go ahead and make this fish have a nice little fin. And what you may want to do is not make a perfect circle or a perfect shape, a round shape, but go ahead and make it almost a little bit jaggedy. As you can see here, the edge of my fin is not straight or curved at all. It has little bumps, and that is totally okay. In fact, that may be even better, because as we know in nature, nothing is perfectly circle or perfectly straight. It's all bumpy. It's has little, almost little misformations, but that's what makes it so cool, and that's what makes it really fun to paint. Is you can go ahead and customize, for example, the fins of a fish to however you would like it to be. So go ahead and make those fins just a little bit jaggedy, and that is going to be the front fin of my fish. Alright, so as I've shown in the example, the front fin of my fish was the same color as the outline. I'm now going to go ahead and start this other color, which this other color can go ahead and be whatever color you would like it to be. It could be green, it could be purple. I'm going to go ahead and continue to use blue. Alright, so what you're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and dip our thin paintbrush once more into the water, and then we're going to go ahead and dip it into whatever color you want the fin, the big tail fin of your fish to be. I'm choosing blue, as I said before. And once I have some color, I'm going to be careful, and I'm going to try not to get too much blue mixed in with the orange. I'm going to try and keep them separated and nice and neat. Of course, if you accidentally painted a little bit into the orange, that is totally okay. And what we're going to do is, just like this bottom fin right here, we're going to make these fins of the fish not a perfect curve or straight line, but we're going to make them a little bit bumpy, a little bit jagged, and that all this is going to do is give the fish some personality. So as you see, I'm making kind of bumps in the fin, just like that. I'm starting from one edge, and I'm just going right over, just like that, making little bumps in the fin. That way later on we'll color it in and have a beautiful fin for our fish. So now that we have that, I stopped right here. I made about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bumps, starting from a little bit in the middle, kind of the middle area where the fish is. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the coloring. I'm going to be careful, I'm going to draw out this way to make the tail fin. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start drawing from this edge. And I'm going to go all the way down, kind of in the same shape the outline of the fish was. And once I'm about out here, I'm going to come right back up. And this is going to be where our tail for our fish is. And just like this fin, just like the top fin right here, we're going to go ahead and make the tip of our fish's tail not perfect, but jaggedy and a little bit bumpy. So just like that. All I'm doing is I'm coming down from that tip, coming down to the left, and I'm starting not right at this tip right here, but right here, and again coming down, and I'm going to repeat. So instead of starting right here at the edge, I'm going to go up just a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and go down to the left, just like that, and I'm going to go ahead and do that just one more time, just like that. So that's the main part of our tail. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and dip it back in. I'm going to go back up kind of towards where the pointed edge of our outline was, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and go close to the outline, but I'm not going to go ahead and touch it. So as you can see here, we have the outline of our top fin. We have the tail of our fish right here. And then finally, we're gonna go ahead and do a bottom part right here. So as you see, we ended up close to the outline, but we did not touch it. We still left some space. And we're just gonna start from that area once again. And I'm gonna go ahead and once more, go ahead, use the same technique. Make it a little bit bumpy. And give our fish some personality. And just like that, I'm just gonna come along and I'm gonna meet right before the front fin. I'm not gonna go ahead and touch it. I'm just gonna leave a little bit of space, but you can do what you want. And just like that, we have the outline of our fish. So the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue the same thing I did up here and kind of take that dark blue, try my best not to mix in with the orange, but go right ahead and copy that orange outline with the blue coloring right below it, right above it. Just like that until I meet right there. So now I have a dark blue outline for the tail of my fish. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go over real quickly and I'm gonna try and get these outlines, these bumps, to be a nice dark blue so that when we color it in, we can distinctively see just a little bit, not a ton, but just a little bit, the outline versus the coloring in we're about to do. So I'm gonna go by, see some lighter areas of color. I'm gonna go ahead, dip it back into the coloring. I'm just gonna make these areas just a little bit darker. Just like so. Alright, so we have almost finished our fish. We're going to now color in this outline right here with the same color of blue. All I'm going to do, make sure that blue coloring is nice and watery, and I'm going to try and conserve as much blue as I can. I'm going to go ahead and take it, kind of spread it out just like that. And then what I'm going to do is dip it right back into the water and go ahead, spread around that coloring. Just like that. This way you will conserve the coloring and really utilize the water that this can spread around the pigment, the blue pigment, over much more space if you were just dipping it in here and painting and coloring in almost. It also leaves a really pretty watercolor effect. That's just very nice. So let's go ahead and continue coloring this in. Alright, so just like that, we have almost finished our fish. So now what we're gonna do is add a little bit of coloring in the middle and then finish with the eyeball. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead, take the broad brush right here. I'm gonna get any coloring that was on it off of it. And then all I'm gonna do is take this brush, dip it in the water, but not dip it into any coloring, but just add some water on top of the yellow main body of our fish. Just like that. You don't want to douse it, you don't want to soak the paper in too much water, you just want to get a little bit of water right there, just like that. So now that we have a little bit of water, it may be hard to see, but we have a little bit of water right here. We are going to go ahead we're gonna add a little bit extra orange into the main body of the fish. So I'm gonna take the thin brush. I'm gonna go ahead, dip it into the orange, get plenty of water into that orange, make it nice and watery, and then after you have some orange on your paintbrush, you're going to very gently press down and get some coloring of orange in the main body of your fish. And you can go ahead and do zigzag lines, you can do polka dots, it's totally up to you. I'm just kind of filling it in just like that. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and dry off this paintbrush. I'm going to dip it in just a little bit into the water, and I'm finally going to go right back over it and kind of spread around the color. This way you can make cool designs, you can do swirls like that. You can go ahead, spread around that color, just like so. And just like that, we have the inside of our fish. So what I'm noticing is I added quite a bit of orange, and as you can see in this example right here, I added so little orange that you could barely see it in that watercolor pattern. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, because I believe that I added too much, I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel and I'm just going to lightly pat down and take back up some of that orange. Just like that. As you can see, it's coming right off into the paper because it's still wet. I'm just gonna dab it. And just like that, I've taken away most of the orange. Now, if you liked having a lot of orange or a lot of whatever color you chose, that's totally fine. But if you're like me and you thought it was a little bit too much, you can go ahead, take a paper towel, and just dab it onto the wet paint and take some of it off. Alright, so we only have one more thing to do, and that's the eyeball right here. And what we need to do is go ahead and make sure there's no water in this area right here. I specifically was careful to make sure that I was only putting water to not reach the face of the fish, but only back here, because now we are going to do the eyeball. If you want this orange pattern or whatever color pattern all the way up to the face of the fish, you can totally do that, but I would say before we add on the eyeball that you completely let it dry. Let it dry to the point where you can go over with your finger and you won't have any paint. So let it completely dry out. Once it is completely dry out, or you make sure that there is no water or moisture on this part of the fish, basically where you're gonna place your eyeball, you're gonna go ahead, take the thin brush, wipe off any paint you have. We're gonna dip it in the water, go ahead and get the black pigment. And what we're gonna do is just be very careful and only get the water in the black once or twice. So I only did it one time. That's because we do not want our black to be super watery. We want it to be a nice, thicker black, so that when we go down, we just make one little polka dot of the eyeball of the fish. And just like that, that is pretty much all of the black we are going to use. So that way, the reason we want the black to be a thicker, less watery coloring, and we don't want this area to be wet, we want it to be dry, is because if it was wet, the black would spread out and the eye wouldn't look as clean. But either way, of course, you can do whatever you would like. But that being said, this is our end product. This is our fish. Alright, that is going to be it for today's video. I thank you so much for watching and I hope you had some fun. I ask really quickly that you check out the survey below. It'll only take a few minutes and it'll help me out a lot. Thank you so much again, and I hope to see you on the next one.